shining on Oracle Park, but that's what we're trying to figure out. If the sun is going to shine on the Giants or if it's going to be just, another 60-degree foggy day like it's been for the first 2/3 of this season.
I felt like water was on my face walking in. I'm like, is that mist, fog? What is going on? But I'll say this, Evan, if I could make up a T-shirt for Giant fans right now, and I've been banging this drum all last week, for the Giants, the math is still there. That's all. It's 3.5 out with 54
Well, they're not
left.
technically eliminated yet. I think the only team that's eliminated is the Chicago White Sox.
You're right there, Evan. Get hot.
Speaking of the Chicago White Sox and the NL West, not involving the Giants, they haven't made a trade, but the Dodgers continue to wheel and deal.
Shocker. They
got Tommy Edman right before the break from the St. Louis Cardinals, and they just acquired Michael Kopech, right-throwing flamethrower.
White Sox.
Starting pitcher at the beginning of the year, moved back to the bullpen. So they added their relieving core. I feel like those are, honestly, if I'm trying to wrap my mind around a move that Farhan would make, a move like that would probably be it. Like a guy that isn't necessarily a big name. I don't know how many people know about Michael Kopech. He's a former first-round pick, but he's a guy that can kind of add depth to your bullpen. Tommy Edman is a utility player.
Yeah.
So he's someone that can help them during their, they've sustained a lot of injuries. He can play tons of positions. I don't know if he'll necessarily be involved come October, but he can help you get there. And he might be able to help you if someone is also hurt, a la a Max Muncy or, I don't know, Mookie Betts, who's on the shelf right now for them, if he doesn't come back or has a setback. So, I think the Giants, if they're looking at buying, which I believe that they should do as opposed to sell, they're probably looking at players that are going to just marginally add to the team. I don't think that they're going to go out and try and swing big, but a lot of people want them to go.
Yeah, and on this next road trip, they're going to face the Reds, who are currently 5 out of the wild card, and the Nationals 6.5, Evan. But I'm looking at, to me, only the Marlins, Rockies, Angels, A's, and White Sox, who have been willing and dealing. That's what you got to choose from, unless you're one of those teams that are, 5 out, but they feel like they have no chance. But what if I laid this on you and Giant fans? Good God, wake me up when Cobb comes back, but couldn't that be an addition? Obviously, he's been on your team. You got nothing from him. But if that day does ever come to where he could hit the rotation, you think that would bolster your starting rotation? Like, just that alone.
It also bolsters your bullpen because you can put Jordan Hicks into the bullpen, or you could move another starting pitcher back to your bullpen, because right now at full strength, they have 6 or 7 guys basically. Now, someone like Birdsong might get sent down to AAA. He's kind of on the outside looking in of that rotation, but you look at Snell, Ray, Webb, Cobb, and of course, forgetting the name. I want to say Harrison. Kyle Harrison?
Yeah. No,
and then Hicks. And then Hicks, sorry. Yeah, but you could move one of those guys. You could move Jordan Hicks to the bullpen. That means that you have, ideally, 2 back-end flamethrowers in Doval and Hicks. Hicks could potentially even become the closer because Doval has been struggling a lot this season. So
almost gave it up yesterday.
The health is not just about the rotation itself, but it's also about helping the bullpen. And again, the pitching of this team should be the strength. Now, they're not hitting at a historic rate.
That's what my problem.
And that's where I think that they could, if you're going to swing big, the 2 names out there to me are Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Luis Robert. Now, I think they could use more help in the outfield, but maybe they have, more bodies out there. I don't know if they don't want to move Conforto, Yaz. I think those are also the 2 players that they could potentially sell because they're on the last year of their deal. So what do you do about the outfield? Ramos is your center fielder. You got 2 guys out there. Does Robert coming in means that Yaz gets bounced? You could flip Conforto. If you bring in Vlad, does that move Lamont Wade back to the DH? But then what do you do with Soler? Like, there are parts that they'd have to move around no matter what they do.
But those would be good questions to, you know what I mean? If you were telling me you insert Vlad into this offense, oh, my God, Evan, the rest will take care of itself. And I just said I'm a romantic, I'm a dreamer. But, man, I just don't see Toronto saying night to Vlad. But too many times this year, even when the Giants have collectively a good offensive day, it never is infectious. You know what I mean, Evan? It's just one guy will get hot like we saw Ramos do it for the whole first half. Now we're seeing Fitzgerald, who man, looks like Derek Jeter right now. I mean, he just looks great. But it never can be all of us catch fire. Now, I went third person. There's 54 games left. It could happen. But guess what, Evan? You're not going to play the Rockies every day. And what did you tell me? What was it? 10-3 against what's their record against the Rockies this year, the Giants?
Yeah, 10-3.
Yeah, 10-3.
So I was having a conversation after I got back yesterday with my roommate, Mark Grandy, who's also hosting from 2 to 6, along with FB Santangelo and Dan Dibley.
Oh, 3-man.
They're on a 3-man weave.
Big 3.
Just like our 3-on-3. We'll have more on that later in the week. So I was talking to him because he was kind of, filling me in on what the day-by-day was for the Giants, right? They come out of the All-Star break, and then they lose 2 of 3 to the right. It just looks flat.
Yeah.
Like, this team stinks, and they're gross, and they're horrible, and I can't believe that they would ever not choose to sell, right? Or I'm just kind of surmising.
But they were down, Evan. That was pathetic. Go ahead.
They were down bad. Yeah. But then I started to look at their whole season. I was like, wait a minute. After they beat the Rockies and swept them 4 straight, they're 10-3 against them this year. If I told you at the beginning of the year they went 10-3 against the Rockies, you'd probably take that.
Oh, no doubt.
But it's because they didn't go 11-2.
There you go.
Or 12-1.
Mm-hmm.
10-3 is a damn good record against a bottom feeder, no matter how bad they are. Remember, a big reason in 2021 that they were able to win 107 games is because they murdered the bottom of the NL West, right? They
took their business.
Like 80% of games from the Diamondbacks and the Rockies or something like that. So, yes, that series in the moment felt like crap.
It was over. I thought it was a wrap.
But you're done with your season series with the Rockies, and you're actually sitting pretty.
Yeah, because of you handled business with those 4, the Brett Favre against the Rockies. But Evan, that last, and I know this is not it is revisionist history, but that last getaway game against the Dodgers where you came back, tied it up, and then Nick Ahmed of all effing people comes up to plate and hits the go-ahead home run. I mean, I was like, wow. So I do got to give them some credit for not letting that taste affect them these last 4 games against the Rockies. But the A's, I've said this, are entertaining. They play hard. They got power. It's not going to be easy. And Evan, when you're 2 games under 500 after 108 games, who the hell are you to point your finger at who's easy or not? But that's been the theme of the Giants all season long. The game that'll get them to 500. It's been elusive to them more times than not, regardless of the opponent. So something's going to have to change. I don't expect them to sell, but if if we got that news, that breaking news, and Lubman hit the sounder, that Snell was going to be in another uniform, that, my friend, would be the death and the end of the Farhan era. It should here in San Francisco.
Oh, and there's another position player that's off the board. This is from John Heyman, reporting from Robert Murray that Tommy Pham is going to the St. Louis Cardinals. So,
what up, Pham? He'll be back. That's just, he was with St. Louis.
Yeah, he's been there before. So, again, and St. Louis, now they just sold, technically, Tommy Edman, but was a guy that hadn't really helped them this year. He'd been injured quite a bit. But the St. Louis Cardinals are
1 game back.
2.5 ahead of the Giants right now in the NL wildcard race. They're not in the 3rd and final spot, but they just went on and added a bat that can help them. The Chicago Cubs are beneath the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, they went
and traded for Isaac Paredes, former All-Star with the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, they moved off of Christopher Morel, who hadn't really been helping them so much this season, but they didn't go into sell mode. I don't think the Giants should or will go into sell mode. And that's really what we're trying to get to the bottom of, is what even sell mode would look like. Is it just all about Blake Snell? And are you moving Conforto? Are you moving Yaz?
I think Conforto would be like the Pirates. A team like that, Conforto he would be attracted to them. But what could you get for him? But then also, if you're not getting a bat back, how do you replace Conforto? He hasn't had the best season by any stretch, but he's got what I love. A show on Stars on hiatus right now. He's got power. Yeah, so when he's on, thank you, Lubman. When he's on, I like him. But at the end of the day, I do wonder if he's expendable, but you got to get something back for you to even take that chance.
And that's the thing. I don't think you'd be getting much back for him in general. You'd be getting cash considerations, and you would save, $6 million of the rest of his deal the rest of the season. Now, maybe, like, Tommy Pham is a better hitter than Michael Conforto, but maybe as a left-handed bat, Conforto's considered more of a premium by people. I just know that he hasn't been able to hit a baseball or hit water if he fell out of a boat the moment he came back from the IL.
Yeah.
So is he actually that value? I don't think the Giants should move him. The one position that is interesting, because I think they could use an outfield upgrade, and that's why, to bring it back to Luis Robert, you're going to have to give up something for him. If you are of the mindset that you want a Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you are going to have to give up something to get him. Now, you're also going to have to probably pay Vlad. You don't have to pay Luis Robert. So someone like Luis Robert is going to be very expensive. That's a player that's going to cost you probably 2 or 3 top prospects. So to pay off the tease that we had coming into this segment, 2 years ago, a lot of people I heard were not willing to move Marco Luciano to, say, get Juan Soto. They were not willing to move these top prospects. I think Harrison was also another at the time. They were not willing to move both of those guys to go out and get arguably the best young hitter of his generation. Now, Vlad's not the best hitter of his generation, and neither is Luis Robert, but they're going to cost you a lot. Would you be willing to move off of Marco Luciano right now, having seen what you saw so far this season? Are you willing to move off of Luis Matos? Are you willing to move Kyle Harrison or Hayden Birdsong? These are players that are young, that are up and coming, that have a little bit of service time, but haven't shown you a ton. Are you willing to move those players? Because that's probably what it's going to take.
Well, 2020, Luis Roberts hit 47. He's had 38 homers last year. So that's like Soler. That's on his resume, and you could be like, man, can he tap into that? But Evan, it's just 12 on the year this year, batting .210, 24 RBIs. But I think as far as Luciano, if I could get Roberts Jr., I would do that, because I think what transpired this season with him mentally, and how we don't know what he is as far as position-wise, and now Fitzgerald, I'm not saying I'm sold on him, but dog, it looks like right now shortstop could be his. Evan, I would say yes to that deal. I would include Harrison too for Robert Jr. I would do that. But his year right now is like you got a bunch of guys doing that on the Giants. OGs, 210, 12 homers at 24 RBIs. But if he can be that guy that knocked 38 home runs out of the park last year and tap into that and be in a better lineup than he is in Chicago, I would entertain that.
I would as well. 888-957-9570 is the number. We're talking about what the Giants do at the deadline. Again, it's coming up tomorrow at 3 o'clock, so it'll be after our show. But the Giants don't play until tomorrow night, so they got to make the choice. Are they going to be sellers? Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to stand pat? What do you want to see from them? In a perfect world, what happens between now and 3 o'clock tomorrow for the San Francisco Giants? Because we've seen the Dodgers make a couple of trades. We've seen the Yankees make trades. We've seen even the Chicago Cubs, who are beneath the Giants, make trades. We've seen the Cardinals wheel and deal. 888-957-9570. What do you want to see happen? Evan Inferstein with Daryl the Guru Johnson.